the Evolution Security Podcast. Hello, everybody. This is Aaron Davis and Eric Davis on the Evolution Security Podcast. Now, just real quick, on a somber note, I know most people will know this by the time this show drops, but I just have to say something about the fact that we lost Taylor Hawkins, the drummer of the Foo Fighters. The Foo Fighters is my favorite rock band ever, and that makes Taylor Hawkins one of my favorite drummers. And so I was really bummed out to hear that he lost his life. And, you know, reports are coming out that that was probably drug related, which is not a surprise. But before we got going, I just wanted to, tell, the Foo Fighters, all the guys in the Foo Fighters and Taylor's family, give them our condolences. He's going to be missed for sure because he was a huge part of the Foo Fighters sound.
Absolutely.
Right now, we would like to welcome Chris Lapre, who is a lieutenant for the SWAT team in Pinal, Arizona Sheriff's Department. And hey, buddy, how are you doing?
Good, Aaron. How are you?
Man, wonderful. It's great to have you on here.
Thanks.
Now,
I'm glad to be back.
Awesome. Well, guys, real quick, audience, we are going to have a more political show this time. Every now and then we get a little political, especially on our gear and mindset episodes with just Eric and I, but this is going to be a little deeper. But the point is, we're after empirical truth here, and Chris is definitely firsthand knowledge, a primary source of what we're going to talk about here. And one truth that is inarguable is that one side of the aisle leans towards freedom and one side of the aisle leans away from freedom. Are we in agreement with that, guys?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So we know that we're here in a crazy time, unfortunately, under this administration, under the ATF, under Biden. Let's just begin with a couple of things when we're talking about leaning away from freedom. This summer, they're going to roll out their ghost gun and their brace factoring criteria rules. You know, of course, legislation by fiat from a agency, which is not law. It's unconstitutional. We know that for a fact too. And then just a couple days ago, the Supreme Court overruled the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals and basically went against the Navy SEALs that did not want to have to take the vaccination under the ruling of the pants shitter in chief, we'll call him. The fact is, and we're gonna, on that note, guys, the CDC even says that the vaccines do not work to prevent the spread. That's not that shouldn't be controversial, and that's not a conspiracy. That's the freaking truth. So why would the federal government still require service members, Navy SEALs, to take this vaccination and now face losing their jobs? It's ridiculous. So all that to say, we are under some scary times. We knew that our freedoms would be attacked under this administration. So again, we had Chris come on because we knew that we could talk about some deeper information, some things that he has to talk about that no one is hearing about. So, Chris, we had a nice conversation yesterday, and I just want to start bringing you in. And why don't you start back? I think it was about 6 months before Biden was inaugurated. And why don't you tell us how your job, your world, what you deal with changed at that point?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, I've been a cop 23 years in Arizona. I can honestly say that the best period of time we had as law enforcement in Arizona for border issues was under President Trump. Like him or hate him, right? It has nothing to do with it. It's not a political thing. It is, things were honestly better. We were allowed to do our job. So about 6 months in, right after the election was in November. Yeah, about 6 months prior to that, we started seeing an increase again in human smuggling, narcotics trafficking, stuff like that. And what it comes down to is they were getting ready for a big push because if President Trump got reelected, they knew it would have been a very big, not to use cliches, but there would have been a serious wall for them to get into this country, right? And they just started pushing hard. And as soon as the election got in and got over and Biden won, technically, we just saw an influx of immigrants and narcotics coming into this country that I haven't seen in, gosh, 08, 09 was a big push, but it's quadrupled that. It's way worse than I saw under Obama. Way worse.
Wow.
Which is saying a lot, honestly.
Absolutely, because back 08, 07, 08, 09, 10, I'll say from 08 to about 2013, 2014, a primary mission of SWAT was to be out in the desert doing interdiction because we could have 287G, which was kind of like a federal authority, and then they had I can't remember the state statute they passed, and it went all the way up to the Supreme Court. But we actually had the authority to detain illegal immigrants coming into this country that we found, and we could hold them for Border Patrol or HSI, which is Homeland Security, ICE, whoever you want to call them. And we were able to do our job and detain these people, right? Well, as soon as that, I think it was, I can't remember the damn statute, but it went all the way up to the Supreme Court. They nixed our authority to do that. And under Trump, we had a strong federal government protecting our border. And then as soon, again, that 6 month gap, they knew, hey, state has no authority to detain. And it's just this flood. So now we'll get these carloads or body loads that are coming up across the border, and we stop them. And if we don't have any criminal activity, we have no legal authority to detain them. And they're basically told, hey, Phoenix is that way, Phoenix is north, or have a good day, or whatever. It's absolutely terrible, man.
Well, let me comment on that, Chris. I saw just recently, maybe a month ago, that DeSantis, the governor of Florida, and the Attorney General of Florida are suing the Biden administration because it's proven that they are actually taking the illegal immigrants, they're putting them on buses or putting them on planes in the shadow of darkness and flying them into cities. And I find it interesting that they seem to fly them into areas where it would help them to have additional
Absolutely.
Democrat votes.
Yes, and it comes down to the fact that they know they can't honestly beat us, right? So they have to do it by fraud, and they're displacing these people in places to put themselves at an advantage,
Well, and we also know that without voter reforms like IDs and clearing voter rolls, that people are absolutely voting illegally. But I find it interesting that Democrats aren't interested in any of those measures. Why is that? It's like, why don't they want these honest measures? Well, we know why, because they want those illegal votes. So we're pro-immigration. We just want folks to do it the correct way legally, and we also want them to assimilate to our culture, because our culture is about liberty and about being able to have opportunities that you don't have anywhere else in the world. And so otherwise, I mean, the left, it's interesting. They don't want those true opportunities for them. They want to keep them down and continue this move towards a leftist government.
Like we were referring to earlier, is that they are using those people,
Absolutely.
using them. It's not they're helping them; they are using them for more power. And we can go off. I think we've beat this horse plenty.
So I'll add one thing to that.
Yeah.
As far as immigrants coming to this country and being left leaning, Aaron, to also support what you're saying, most traditional Hispanic families have conservative views because they have a very Christian background.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent point. Well, so what I would kind of like to do now, and I think this is what's really important, is to know the process, Chris, that these people go through to get here, and what you see with your own eyes, how these people are treated, the lives they live on their way here, when they get here, etc. Can you kind of go how that process goes for a typical person or typical group that's trying to get here?
Sure. So depending on what country they're coming from, whether it's South America, Central America or Mexico, or even other overseas nations, right? They come to a point within South America, Central America, or Mexico and get picked up by known smuggling organizations. And they pay a fee to come into this country. Now, coming into this country isn't on a 727 from Mexico City that lands in Phoenix. It is a very long, tedious journey through some potential trails to the mountains of Mexico, the deserts of Mexico, up to the United States border. And then when they get to the border, depending on what part of Arizona or Texas, New Mexico that they're trying to get, or California that they're trying to get to, depends on the length of the journey. So for the most part, what happens is they, in the western part of our state, or the western part of my county, I should say, is what we call the West Desert, right? So between Pinal County, you have Pima County, but that is pretty much covered by the Tohono O'odham Reservation on the western end. And Tohono O'odham is a very, very, very large Indian nation with very, very few police officers. It's just they don't have a large infrastructure, so they don't have a lot of cops, right? So those guys will take these immigrants and literally walk them up from the Arizona border to, for right now, we'll talk about I-8, the I-8, what we call the I-8 corridor. And that can be anywhere from a 4 to 7 or 8-day journey, depending on time of year, number of law enforcement in the area, such as Border Patrol or us out working operations. And they literally make their way on foot in 4 days. And if they were able to pay their full fee, right now the going head rate for immigration into our country, illegal immigration in our country, is approximately $8,000 a head, right? So a family or a family member or themselves are somehow coming up with $8,000 to get themselves smuggled into this country. And guess what? If they get caught, the coyote runs away when Border Patrol or us show up or whoever, whatever agency catches them, they lose that $8,000. They have to start over, right? So they start coming across the border. If they are ill, elderly, children, or get injured on the way, these coyotes don't care for them. They're just, I don't want to say they're trash at the time, but they become trash. They become a used wrapper, right? Well, hey, you can't continue. I still have 10, 20, 30 people that I'm responsible for. So you either stay with us or, yeah, we'll send somebody to get you. And sending somebody to get you never happens. What they do is me, my team, my agency has seen what happens to these people that die from exposure out in the desert, whether it be cold exposure in the winter or even worse, heat exposure in the summertime. And then during that time, if these people are trafficked through our desert, there are times where women children, even men, are sexually assaulted and used by these coyotes as property, and until you've worked it and until you've seen it, people do not comprehend the atrocities that occur. Like, you, me, we're normal, we're good people, right? We're not necessarily, we're Americans, but we're just good people. For you to take a person, an elderly old lady or a young child, and cross them across the desert, see them suffering and be like, well, sorry, you can't hang with us, and leave them there knowing that they're going to die an absolutely horrible death from exposure. I can't fathom that, right? And I know you can't. I know Eric can't. I know probably most of the listeners of this show can't, because it's not in our nature. This is commonplace for them. Oh, well, whatever, and just keep right on going.
It's
right?
just evil, Chris. I mean, I think
It's
all of us agree it's evil.
It is absolutely evil.
Well, and Chris, something you said yesterday that I wanted to make sure we covered is you explained how they piled people into cars and what happened to some of those people in those cars. Explain why they use junky cars and what happens to those people. You had a lot of interesting things to say about that.
Yeah, so like if they make it through all that, they get up to, say, the I-8 corridor or the Silver Bell. Silver Bell is on the eastern part of the state. Eastern part of our county, which is where you guys saw on my Instagram. I posted those pictures. That is one load up point in our county. And so they get up to their load up point or their drop off point, and the coyote makes a phone call to the compartmentalized trafficking portion of this organization. Let's say the vehicle pickup portion of this. They send a car down. They're probably not sending, like I said yesterday, they're not sending a Yukon Denali brand new with AC, right? They're sending a 1992 Subaru Outback, or just an older vehicle that maybe costs them only a couple of $1,000s, because if it gets seized by Border Patrol, if it gets seized by whatever organization stops them, they're not out a lot of money, right? So you may have 10, 15 people stuffed into a very, very, very small car. And when I say stuffed, literally laying down on top of each other in the back seats, in the trunk, in the front seats. And these cars are, number one, they're probably not in great condition, right? They're well over 100,000 miles on them, probably got crappy tires. Steering's probably worn out. And now you add well over the gross vehicle weight. So the vehicle is unable to support that suspension wise, and you basically have a death trap. And then on top of that, these people are trying to get these bodies from one spot to a safe house. When I say safe house, I use that loosely, as fast as possible. So they may be traveling in excess of the speed limit. And what happens is, wintertime, they're packed in there and they're all wearing heavy clothes. Summertime, it's 110 degrees, 115 degrees in Arizona without AC inside that car. And these people will literally get smothered and die. And we've had cases such as that. It's happened before. Myself, my chief deputy, when he was a sergeant, he and I worked a case where we literally pulled people out of the back of a pickup truck, stacked on top of each other, covered with cardboard, covered with other material to keep them hidden. And we pulled people out that were on the verge of being dead from suffocation or other things. So now you add in those factors, plus they're on the freeway or they're on a back road where we are known for interdiction. I-10's a big interdiction freeway. I-8's a big interdiction corridor. 347 in Arizona is a big corridor. And guess what? Now these people are running so they don't get caught. So now what you have is a pursuit with 15 bodies inside at maybe 100 plus miles an hour. And guess what? The driver's just trying to get away, because all he's doing it for is the money. He doesn't care about the cargo in the back. He doesn't care about these people. And we've had a series of accidents out here now where these people are being killed with multiple fatalities. And it's not just the trafficking side that is a danger to these people, right? It is the people themselves driving, the conditions they're in, the conditions that are caused by us trying to do our job. So overall, it's an absolute terrible way for these people to have to live.
And
I don't know if that kind of covers it.
Oh, yeah. So then when they get here, going back to the fact that they owe the cartels $8,000 approximately. So when they get here, a lot of them can't pay that or don't have that money just yet. And so talk about what happens to those individuals.
So even if they do pay, Aaron, let's say their family is able to support them and get them full payment for their crossing the border, right? They get here, they may make it to a house in Phoenix, and now that faction of the cartel or that faction of these smugglers may say, hey, you know what? Or worse yet, they get picked up by a RIP crew. So a RIP crew knows, like, hey, I-8 milepost 158 is a hotspot for illegal activity right now. It's a hotspot for body and drugs. So they send a couple of dudes from Phoenix, like bad guys, gangbangers, rival cartels, whoever it be. They say, hey, we know this location's hot. They go down to milepost 158, lay up in the desert. When the immigrants or the illegals come up, they jump them, just almost like a law enforcement team would jump these people, right? Now they're their property. So they take them to Phoenix, Avondale, Goodyear, wherever, to an alleged safe house, and they extort these people. And they make them call their family and say, hey, Eric, you're going to call Aaron and tell him that you're here and he needs to pay us an additional $3,000. And if he doesn't, we're going to kill you, or we're going to rape you, or we're going to go back and find your family in Mexico and we're going to kill them. And so now you have people that are trying to get here illegally, that have paid their dues to get in the country, and now they're being extorted for an extra amount of money that they probably can't pay because they probably use their life savings to get in this country. And legitimately, if it's the cartels that do this, they're probably put into some kind of, well, in order to make your payment, you're going to run dope for us, or you're going to go pick up bodies for us, or you're going to do something so we're getting our money's worth because your family can't pay. If it's a RIP crew and they can't pay, they may be released if they're lucky, potentially going to be raped if they're female. And we have had cases where males are raped too. And I'm not talking in a sexual manner, in a very violent manner, stuff like that. As far as it's usually some kind of tool that's used as payment or something like that. And then you just might be killed because you're of no worth, right? So these people face so many challenges coming here, and they're, like you were saying earlier, they're literally being used by the left because they know, well, if 100,000 of them come in and 95,000 make it, we're good. You know, we don't give a shit about the other five. Sorry, we don't give anything about the other 5,000 that didn't make it.
Well, Chris,
And
I would really like to make a conclusion or a point about what you've just been enumerating for us. So essentially, the Biden administration and administrations like his, like the Obama administration as well, not as bad, but their immigration policies or the ignoring of federal law essentially helps facilitate an exponential increase in this taking place recently, and all this death, suffering of these poor people. You can point towards the policies as being
absolutely.
partly causing this, and so I like to juxtapose the fact that, again, I know it's may seem apples to oranges, but again, Aaron's discussion about the ATFs cracking down on U.S. citizens, and they like to use the old adage, "Hey, if we can just save one life with our anti-gun policies," when they know it doesn't work. But then on the flip side, just for power, political power, they'll usher in policies that create this environment of death of these people. You know, it's amazing to me. I can't believe it. You know.
Yeah, and in economics, you call that concept demand pull. And to me, it's not a indirect thing. Chris, I'm sure what part of what you're talking about is the fact that these they know that this upcoming administration is going to be lax in the immigration laws. They plan for it, and of course, the Biden administration and other government officials that are on that side, they do, reiterating what Eric was saying, they want this to happen for power. And I want to make a point about the fact that, okay, all this is going on. There's thousands of people, hundreds of thousands probably, that are being exploited in actual forms of slavery, sex slavery, murdered, all of this stuff. And then we have going on in the country in the last couple of years these political movements and propaganda that were systemically racist, and this country can never atone for our past. And that issue, this issue, the systemically racist country, is the issue of primacy. It's one of the main issues, and yet none of this gets covered at any level to where it's as if it's not important at all. Of course, there are news organizations that cover it a little bit, but the mass media, the normal media that people pay attention to, they aren't covering this at all. This is real suffering. This is real suffering going on right now. And we're spending so much airtime talking about systemic racism, which, again, I understand that there are issues that people have to go through, but right now people are dying, being raped, and actually in slavery right now.
Yeah, Aaron, that's one of the things that kind of frustrates me is people say, when I say me, they're talking about law enforcement, right? They'll say, "Oh, well, you're racist against Mexicans, and President Trump was racist against Mexicans." First of all, let's clarify something: Mexicans isn't a race, right? It's a nationality. So now we have people that don't even know the words they're using. And I have never, and I've been doing this a long time. Majority of my career has been anti-smuggling, right? I have never seen a deputy sheriff or a cop that's worked with us or a federal agent that has ever stopped a load of people that are in need and shown them ill will, right?
I guarantee. Yep.
And if anything, we are more sympathetic because we don't feel like we're doing enough because our hands are tied at times, especially, I'll tell you right now, man, I don't know how Border Patrol still has people working for them. Those guys go to work every day and are absolutely, excuse the expression, shit on by this administration, and those guys still show up, right? And that's a job I wouldn't do because they are the most unappreciated organization in law enforcement right now. Just to touch on something before we go further than there, I have to be careful what I say because I'm still in law enforcement, but the ATF is an organization that I could never work for because their values are absolutely wrong. I worked for a federal task force and a state task force, and the only time I saw guns illegally smuggled across the border into Mexico was by a 3-letter organization that we've discussed here today.
Absolutely.
And, I don't have any respect for that because it was an Operation Gun Runner, Operation Enough is Enough, the stuff that, Obama's organization was involved in. And that was a direct result or a direct attempt to crush the Second Amendment and make it look like we were responsible for the things going on in Mexico, and that was absolutely false.
Yeah, because of the availability of guns in the United States, they made their way south of the border, and that shows you how dangerous our lax gun laws are.
Right.
That's a paradox.
Yeah.
That the only way that it wasn't even our lax gun laws, it was the federal government running the damn guns.
Well, but you just go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say that's a whole nother show we could do because I was involved in what basically started the collapse of that. My DEA or my task force group will say, was involved in a seizure that caused that to spiral out of control. And we could talk about that case at a later time. It's, I'm no longer part of that organization. I don't really care if the information's out there anymore, because the Constitution's number one to me, right? And I've been a cop in, like I said, 25. It'll be 23 years here in Arizona, and the only time I've seen some really questionable things done was by that organization, and people need to realize that they are not friendly, and we need to. And don't get me wrong, there's some good dudes at the ATF,
Sure.
right? There's some very good
I've
guys.
Met some of them. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and they get into law enforcement. Though. Yes, they get into law enforcement the same reason I did. They want to do good things. The upper admin is corrupt and have ill intentions for our United States Constitution. So, but go ahead. We'll get back on track, man, because you'll get me on a whole.
No,
we'll
I don't think we're getting off track at all, Chris. I'm just doubling down on what you two were alluding to, is that that organization, that agency. Well, let's specifically say it was the Obama administration and those running the ATF behind closed doors from the administration. You know, what was it? I'm trying to remember the Attorney General, Eric
Holder.
Eric Holder. Thank you, Eric Holder, and the staff in the Obama administration. It's documented that was their intention. That they wanted firearms to be found over the border and have them traced back to U.S. gun shops for that very reason, that they needed, that there was a need for additional gun control in the United States. That was their purpose.
That is a textbook definition of corruption at its highest level.
Yes. So Eric Holder, Obama, they used the ATF as a pawn in their scheme to attempt to do what they wanted. They wanted the Second Amendment gone. They wanted the Constitution bypassed, so that, as you guys know, what is the first thing you do to control a populace?
Disarm them.
Bingo, right? And when it backfired on them, then they started backpedaling and say, "Oh, it was the gun stores that allowed this." No, it wasn't. I know for a fact, and we can again talk about this in a future episode, where the gun stores would call and say, "Hey, man, we know these are cartel members. You need to send agents down here so that you guys can do whatever, arrest them, follow them. No, just let them buy the guns." So fortunately, a couple of the gun owners got together and were like, "Hey, man, this isn't good, right?" So they got letters signed saying, "Hey, if we are allowing this, you're not going to prosecute us when it comes out of what's going on." And guess what? When it did come out, they tried to go back on those organizations, the gun organizations that were selling guns at the request and order of the ATF, and they said, this is on you guys, and here's the letter. Thankfully, they did that, because they would have been prosecuted, right? And that right there is, I can't even fathom that.
And they have no qualms about sending individuals to federal prison for their ends and their means. It's amazing.
Absolutely, man.
And let's highlight again, and I might highlight this several times. Like I said at the beginning, Chris is an excellent primary source here. Everything Chris, you've got no reason to twist the truth, to say things just because it meets your political persuasion or how you believe conservatively or constitutionally. You're just a primary source. You're relaying to us information that is not talked about. Correct. It's covered up, or it's just, I won't say it's covered up in some ways, but just the main thing, no, news organizations aren't interested in it. So Absolutely. Here we are doing, let's just say here's a little bit of journalism, getting primary sources talking to you about this.
Let's take a moment to mention our sponsor, Tenacor. Jeff and the crew at Tenacor continue to set the standard of innovation in the production of Kydex holsters, mag pouches, and EDC belts. Using proprietary CAD designs and CNC machine tooling, the precision and quality of their products stand up to the pressure of duty, competitive shooting, daily carry, and force-on-force training. We love their Velo 4 and Khartoum appendix inside the waistband holsters. The Khartoum also doubles as a strong side inside the waistband holster as well. For folks that run weapons-mounted lights, check out the Sagix Lux that universally fits a wide variety of compact weapons lights. Also, they have the newly released Pharaoh 2 outside the waistband pouch using a proprietary clip to minimize bulk and enhance concealment. A quality carry platform is a must. Don't cinch on cheap gear to carry your life-saving equipment. If you're interested in any of the mentioned products, visit Tenacor.com and use EVO 2021 at checkout for 10% off. Now, back to the interview.
Now, you've contrasted that there is a significant difference what your job is like, what the crime is like between the Trump administration and the Obama administration, and of course, the Biden administration. Now, so another interesting thing that you talked about yesterday was, let's get back to this concept that we're facing the systemic racism, and especially how racist Trump was, right? Can you talk about that? You've got a pretty interesting story about President Trump, don't you?
Yes, sir. So a couple months ago, I can't remember, I can look back. We had the pleasure of having President Trump coming down to the capital of our county, right? Florence, Arizona. He held a rally. My position in SWAT, I had to go and meet with Secret Service. And as we're there, I start meeting with these agents, and they are talking about how great it is to work for him. And what I noticed was that like half of these dudes are black guys, right? They're just really good dudes that are doing their job. They're willing to take a bullet for President of the United States, okay, or former president, since now they're assigned to Donald Trump. And talking to them, man, I'm asking them, like, so how is it working for him? You know, because you hear all the rumors about him being a racist and him being prejudiced and all this stuff, and they're like, dude, when his detail came up, it was like a fight for people to put in for it because he treats law enforcement so well.
Nice.
And I think 50%, or there are several black gentlemen that are on the Trump detail, including the guy that I was my primary contact with U.S. Secret Service. And I was like, so how is it? He goes, dude, he's awesome. He's literally like just a super good dude that just loves us for taking care of him. And he never makes it. He'll never go without the opportunity to thank them for what they do, thank them for being there to protect him. They were telling us a story. So they're assigned, they live in Florida now, these couple agents I was talking to. And they're telling me that, like, hey, when it was Thanksgiving and Christmas, not only did he have his cooks at, is it Mar-a-Lago or whatever, cook for his family, they cooked for their entire family. So, like, if I'm having my parents, my brothers, my sisters, my cousins, all these people over to my house, their food was catered for them, you know, and they just said he is just such a good guy. Now, he's $1 billion businessman from New York. So some people may take that and misunderstand his personality, right? I grew up in the East Coast. I grew up back Northeast, and to me, it's not uncommon, right? If people knew my dad, they'd have thought my dad was kind of a dick. But it's just his personality. He's very abrupt, very direct. There's none of this like, hey, I'm going to schmooze things over. And that's also a generation he grew up in too. So for people to say that he is a racist is just absolutely crap, because he is According to these guys, he's not. And who knows better than somebody who's willing to take a bullet for him, right?
Absolutely.
You know, if Eric, if you hate Italian Americans, which I happen to have Italian's part of my nationality, and you hate me and I treat you like garbage and I'm calling you all kinds of racist names all the time and treat you like garbage, are you going to sit there and go, hey man, I'm willing to take a bullet for this dude? Hell no. You're going to be like, I want off of this detail.
That's human nature to feel that
right.
way and to react that way. Absolutely. And again, I know that we're beating the drums on the politics, but it's true. I mean, all it takes in our nation right now is to simply say that somebody's racist, and the left
Absolutely.
uses that as a way to discredit and essentially take all discussion off of the table.
Yeah,
and,
shut you up.
Yep, and
yes.
Trump is obviously a political enemy to them, because that's the way they seem. But it's just amazing to me that they will use those tactics. They have no qualms about it, but that's what they're doing. They're just trying to defeat him politically. But then everybody you talk to that can't think for themselves, or even well-meaning Democrats, that believe that nonsense, So that's a good story, Chris.
That's the scary part, right? Is we have a generation of people that will just blindly follow what the media tells them instead of doing research. Okay. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about former President Trump for a second. Here's a guy that is very well documented to hang out with everybody of every race, and it's documented photography, right? There's pictures of him with Don King, Mike Tyson. I mean, you name it. As far as some of the higher up celebrities in this country that are African American, and nobody was calling him a racist back then, right? And now all of a sudden, he becomes a very well liked Republican candidate for president, and people start thinking, man, this guy may win. And guess what? What's the only thing we have going for him? Because he's a billionaire, so he doesn't have to depend on going with the flow to gain money or popularity or power. So what are we going to attack him on? We'll attack him on some scandals and the facts that he's a racist. Okay, and every time they have attacked him with some BS, it's been proven false.
Like the Russian hoax.
Exactly. And again, there's a lot of people that don't like him for whatever reason, right? Yeah, he's a billionaire New York businessman. He's not there to make friends. He's there to make money and do a job, have a job done for him. And no, you know what? There are people that aren't going to like that because, again, we have a generation that is used to being coddled and, oh, well, go to timeout. Well, I don't think any billionaire businessman is going to tell you, hey, you know what? I just lost $100 million today because of a mistake you made. Go in timeout and come back tomorrow. It'll be okay. But we don't talk about that, right? We just talk about the fact that how he's a racist. Well, prove to me that he's a racist. Go talk to the people that work for him that are willing to take a bullet for him.
Well, and so it's making me want to circle back to, again, something that I said at the beginning of the show is who cares if it's Trump? Who cares if it's Biden right. or Obama? What we care about, the only thing we can do when you have a two-party system is vote for one that leans towards freedom or the one that leans away from it. Those are undisputable facts. So Absolutely. That's why I don't necessarily support Trump or any Republican that we've had in the presidency. I just support someone that's going to support my freedoms in the aggregate. Right.
Yes.
Well, and Aaron, to add to that, just if I could stop you there, I apologize stepping on you there. Well,
no problem.
And did not under Trump, he governed more conservative than anybody since Reagan. That's also demonstrable. And to your point is that our liberties were most assuredly maintained and if not enhanced. And that's just a fact, I mean, he governed as a conservative. you know?
And it's funny because my sheriff right now, right, and I'll say his name, Sheriff Mark Lamb, because you guys mentioned my agency. Sheriff Lamb is good friends with President Trump, right? He's in Florida with him a lot. They're traveling, doing the America First tour or whatever it is. Obviously, I follow my sheriff on social media and stuff like that because he is legitimately a constitutional loving, true American patriot. The
He
guy is
absolutely
awesome.
is. I follow him too.
And so what happens now is I'm seeing is I kind of go on and look at the comments, right, to kind of see how people are attacking him. And I'm on there reading this thing, and I don't have Facebook. I only have Instagram for obvious reasons. I'm not a Facebook fan. But I can link in and see the comments that are on there. And people are posting about how my sheriff's a racist and how my sheriff is a child molester and a child sex trafficking practitioner. And I'm like, how, how do you even? But then you're going to have somebody that just blindly follows what is put down on print and go, "Oh my God, Sheriff Lamb, he's a cop that is being covered up by the conservative right, and he's trafficking children and women and stuff like that." And nothing could be further from the truth. And it's just their way. They have nothing else, right? They have nothing else on this guy because of his level of dedication to this country, his level of dedication to protecting our Constitution, bringing the border issues to the forefront. Like, our old sheriff was very popular. He's the one that kind of put Pinal County on the map. Sheriff Lamb has by far bypassed him. And everything that he gets up on stage and talks about is not because he wants to be president of the United States. It's not because he wants to be some other political party. He's very happy just being the sheriff because he makes an impact on the world. Believe it or not, sheriffs have a lot of power, especially in Arizona.
Oh, yeah.
And nationally, too. Sheriffs hold a lot of power. And here's the reason why. They're elected by the people, right? Chiefs of police tend to be put in power by a city council or something like that. And guess what? Most city councils lean left,
Yep.
right? So now you have a sheriff that's voicing, and several sheriffs that are getting behind him going, "Hey, man, he's absolutely right." So when they have nothing else, they're going to attack your character or they're going to make you out to be a racist. And that's what they're doing with my sheriff.
The best thing they can do is gaslight and tell you the sky's purple when you see it right in front of your eyes that it's blue, right? I mean,
absolutely. And a portion of the population will blindly follow the sky's purple when you're looking at it and it's blue.
Yeah. Well,
and if I can make another minor political point, isn't it interesting that Marx railed about the exploitation of the workers and the proles? Mm-hmm. But isn't it interesting that Democrats and the left do exactly that? They exploit the little man, to use some of their terms. They exploit people, and they especially exploit what would be the Marx definition of the workers. You know, I mean, I just can't help but point that out. They really do exploit the people, and of course we know that I know Marxism, it's been proven to be a detriment to the world, but you know, it doesn't matter. Again, the ends justifies the means, right?
Yeah, exactly. Who was it that said useful idiots, right?
Yeah, that was absolutely. I think it was either Marx or it was Lenin. I forget which one, but it was one of the prominent Marxist revolutionaries.
Yeah, absolutely. Useful idiots, and we'll use them till no longer needed, then we'll do away with them.
Yeah. Well, so I don't want to forget to touch on something. So in contrast, again, to the way that President Trump or Donald Trump treats his Secret Service agents, what's that? I think you have some inside information on how the Biden administration treats those guys.
Yeah. So like these guys, and I'm not going to narrow it down too much, but the Secret Service members that we had the fortune of working with that day, which were all absolute professionals, would ask. I asked them. You know, I'm not shy. Hey, what's it like? What was it like working for President Obama? I know that because a friend of mine that's with Homeland Security back east. He was Secret Service. When I moved out here, he went to the Secret Service. I came to Arizona to become a cop. He was under the Clinton administration, so he had the benefit of working with Bill and Hillary. And then he went on very early in the Obama administration. He left, but they treat him like garbage. Democrats traditionally do not treat law enforcement well. He said that President Clinton was tolerable, but as we all know, Hillary was an absolute narcissistic bitch.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can say it. Who despised the Secret Service and treated them like absolute garbage. President Biden, same thing. Despises them, treats them like an expendable asset, right? Like, oh, you're here to do your job. That's it. Well, the Secret Service agent that I was talking to, another one who's was direct counter assault team guy. So basically, he is responsible for counter assault against the president himself. He said, you know, working for this president, they're not even acknowledged. They're not talked to. They are not allowed to participate if they're eating food and they don't have time to get food. This administration won't allow them. Hey, man, you want some food? Which was seen under President Trump. Even President Bush treated U.S. law enforcement, federal law enforcement troops very well. He said the biggest shock to him was when Trump was in office. He was one of the counter assault guys guiding him down to, I think it was the Oval Office, and he's walking in front of President Trump at the time, and he hears, "Excuse me, agent," and he doesn't think anything of it because he was never talked to before. He's like, "Excuse me, agent," and he turns around and goes, "Mr. President, are you talking to me?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I don't know you. What's your name?" And he's like, I was kind of taken off guard because this has never happened in my career. And he goes, well, I'm Agent so-and-so. He goes, oh, well, sir, you know, Agent, it's a pleasure to meet you. And thank you for being here, keeping me and my family safe.
Awesome.
And he's like, I really didn't know what to do because was unheard of under my previous administration. So there was a distinct contrast, right, between the two organizations. And it's trickled down from Secret Service to now U.S. Border Patrol. U.S. Border Patrol is not, basically their hands are tied. You know, you guys saw it in West Texas when that agent allegedly whipped that freaking dude.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, man. If all you have to do is watch the video and realize that's not what's going on. But guess what? It was a political ploy, and again, being used for their advantage to say, oh my God, the U.S. Border Patrol is a bunch of racists, and we need to disband or severely limit this organization. What? I mean, you're talking about Arizona. I don't know so much about New Mexico. I don't know too many guys in New Mexico that work border operations. New Mexico and Arizona and Texas, California, agents regularly get shot at that are just sitting on the border doing their job. The Rio Grande is a war zone. Those dudes are getting shot at all the time. Border Patrol, Texas DPS. When those guys are on those operations, it is literally it's as dangerous as being damn near being in a combat zone, right? I think was it the last 18 months of President Trump's presidency, we didn't lose a troop in combat.
Yep.
Right? How many federal agents, how many cops were killed in that amount of time, especially towards the end when the BLM thing really started to escalate, right? We kind of had a little bit of BLM stuff during the end of the Obama administration, and it kind of went down for a while. And as soon as the election was coming around, guess what? Racism, BLM, heavy-handed law enforcement, all this stuff starts popping up again, and cops are being ambushed at an incredible rate. We're being killed at a higher rate than normal. It is a left agenda to disrupt or do away with rule of law. I mean, it's
Well,
just is what it is.
we've talked about this before. The vilification of law enforcement over the last couple of years
Yes.
has absolutely facilitated individuals that may not be very balanced, or even if they are balanced and they just hate law enforcement, or they just hate the rule of law themselves, gives them motivation to kill
Yeah.
cops or law enforcement. It absolutely, we see it in front of our eyes that it has increased because of the media and politicians' attitudes towards law enforcement. It's
Yep.
demonstrable for
100%.
sure. But again, they don't care because
No.
because it's all about the political power that they gain by using that. So
Yeah. And again, and I know, Aaron, we kind of varied pretty far off the topic we were supposed to talk about, but
Well, that's fine.
Again, the attack on domestic law enforcement and the attack on individual agencies, I think, is a way to get the Democrats to federalize law enforcement.
oh, absolutely.
And I just found this out a few months ago. There's a bill that the Democrats are trying to get pushed at a national level where sheriffs will be appointed, not elected. And it's already happened in, I think, 2 states. I think Colorado's one of them. And I want to say either Washington or Oregon. Don't quote me on that, but I know there's 2 states that have made that, where that is absolutely a done deal.
Is that legislation in Arizona or a federal piece of legislation?
That is a federal level. There was legislation, I know Sheriff Lamb was dealing with it, where the sheriffs would be appointed, which makes no sense to me, but at a presidential level. Guess what? Imagine if Obama, or if this idiot in office was appointing sheriffs. God, this country would be done in 6 months.
Dude, what? They think they can appoint sheriffs in counties around the United States? What hubris!
Well, and then add to it, I know it's a separate topic, but again, they also, of course, we know they want to nationalize elections as well. So nationalize law enforcement selection and nationalize voting. Again, I'm just, as we look throughout history.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I was going to go.
We just see this degradation continuing. And the only thing that's really stopped us from completely imploding has been the Constitution and conservatives in our nation. But it's slowly, it continues to creep towards real despotism eventually. And our country, who knows how much longer we're going to have the current system and current Constitution that we have right now.
Well, look what Biden said a few months ago, right? No amendment is absolute. Excuse me?
Yeah.
Where are you getting off saying that? And where do you think you have the power to do that? Last time I checked, it was an actual constitutional amendment that needed to be done to actually amend something. So for him to go and say that absolutely shows where their mindset is, where they want to take the country over. And right now, they know the quiet majority, right, is now becoming pissed off and saying, man, even those people that didn't like Trump and may have voted for Obama are kind of going, and I'm talking the middle of the road people, right? Not true progressives, not true left-wing, hardcore liberals, but there is a part of America that is middle of the road, right? They don't necessarily believe in the hard Christian values, but they don't believe in the hard left values either. And they're just good, hardworking Americans that may not have believed in something that Trump stood for whatever it is. And they're like, hey, man, maybe this guy will provide us with some change to straighten the country out. And now they're looking, going, wait, were we wrong?
He gave them some change for sure.
Yeah.
Changed in a lot of ways in the negative, but.
So now what the left is looking, going, well, we've got enough pissed off people against us. What's the next best thing to do? Open borders, right? open borders, let the floodgates of every nationality, every freaking race in here. And if we give them free phones, free money, restitution, all this stuff, or reparations or whatever for the way they were treated 5,000 years ago, guess what they're going to do? They're going to vote to the government and that supported them. Is it right? Absolutely not. But it's a tactic that they are known will work, and they'll just out freaking vote us, legally or illegally. I asked, we had, I think there was 30, I'm going to say, there was 32,000 people that attended the Trump rally, right? The Secret Service cut it off about 32,000 is what they estimated, 33,000. There was an estimated another 20,000 trying to get into the rally that they just couldn't sustain, so they turned away. I'm sitting in my patrol car, my Tahoe, with this CAT team member, and I said, "So, man, is it always like this?" He goes, "Dude, it's crazy." He goes, "Now, this is coming from a U.S. Secret Service agent." He goes, it's absolutely insane. There's no way this guy lost the election. There's no way." He goes, we would have to go and support Biden on operations once he was the nominee for the Democratic Party. He goes, and he'd have 100 people, and they would adjust the cameras to make it look like there was people in the crowd, and they would have staff come out and sit in the crowd. He goes, there's absolutely no way this guy lost the election.
So, and this is, put a fine point on that, this is a Secret Service agent saying this.
Yeah, this is a direct contact with the President of the United States, Secret Service agent that is responsible for him, and his team is responsible for Biden and Trump, because they were both candidates for the, Democratic national candidate, Republican national candidate. And he's saying there's no way. He's like, it was like this everywhere we went with this guy.
Well, and all you had to go ahead, Aaron.
I was just saying, so this 32,000 people rally was recent, right? That's when
2 months ago. Yeah. That's when I met. When I met President Trump. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, and what I was going to add is that, all you have to do is look at what happened in Fulton County in Georgia, where you see it right there on film, and how that's still not reconciled. We know it's not going to be reconciled in the mainstream media, but you would still think that would be reconciled maybe on more conservative media. I don't know. Maybe it's that you just said, okay, we lost the effort, unfortunately, and just move on. But the very fact that you can see right there on film in Fulton County where they're pulling boxes of votes out from underneath the table, when after they had told the observers to leave, or they said, "Hey, we're done for the evening," and then when they left, I mean, you see it all on film. Oh, the observers are gone. Oh yeah, pull these boxes of votes out from underneath the table
and start running them through the machines.
Yeah. So here's a major issue I have with that, guys, and this is probably the true country-loving American that I have absolutely put forth, especially over the last few years, because I'm seeing such a decline. The American people aren't pissed off about it. They're pissed off, right? But they're not pissed off to the point where something's being done. Because I look at that and go, why are we as again, an alleged majority that won this election, why are we not holding these people accountable? Why are we not rallying the way the left rallies? Right? Yeah. Probably because we're at the heart, we're good people, right? Yeah, at our core, middle of the road and to the right are good people. We're not that left.
And not really that confrontational. Yeah, I think that's
a little bit of a live and let live attitude that comes from conservatives. Yeah, and it's not good. In all honesty, I mean, it's good, but it's not good because it gets us to this area we're in.
I guess it goes beyond freedom, and it talks about we're more liberty based, right? Yeah. Like, hey, you do what you do as long as it doesn't affect me. Well, now it's affecting me. It's affecting my country. It's affecting my friends. It's affecting the people that work with me or for my boss, because we're being killed in their policies, their treatment, and their ideas or ideologies are against what America was founded on and stand for. Mm-hmm. And they know that hey, if we piss them off enough, the only way we're going to beat them is by votes. So again, let's talk about open borders. Aaron, I know you wanted to talk about. I had the pleasure of taking the ambassador of Luxembourg out for a desert tour on Friday. So she was in town, and the sheriff couldn't make it. The chief deputy couldn't make it, so they asked me to do it. And I didn't really know what I was expecting. I was getting myself into, and I was like, "Oh, this ought to be interesting." It's a very small country, and she starts telling me about how she works basically in some southern Sahara countries of Africa as an ambassador. And one of these countries is dealing with some serious immigration issues right now. And she's like, well, what happens? How do you deal with this? And I was trying to explain to her, I'm like, well, we used to have the authority to detain these people, turn them over to Border Patrol. They would be taken back or sent back to their countries of origin or whatever. Now we don't. She goes, well, who do you know? How do you know who you're letting go? We're like, anymore? We don't, you know? And if the American public thinks that the only people coming in the United States across our southern border right now are freedom-loving Hispanics that want to make a better life for themselves, they are drastically wrong. We've arrested or detained Chinese, Russians, Iranians, Yemenis, Iraqis, Somalis. We were seeing a lot of Somalis for a while. South American, Brazil, Venezuelan, Ecuador. I believe if you guys look on YouTube, Sheriff Lamb was actually involved in an incident where they're flying over and they see a group of illegals and they land a helicopter. And so just so happens that I can't remember if it's Venezuelans or Guatemalans or something. And the sheriff, they get them detained and over to Border Patrol and stuff like that. But as far as our legal authority, if we don't have any kind of federal agency with us that has Title 42 authority, we have to let them go. My task force, my anti-smuggling unit that works, that is under my authority is we have ICE agents and Border Patrol assigned to us. So these guys, when we're working an operation, have the authority to detain based off of that reciprocatory power that they're using for the federal government, right? So we have Border Patrol agents, so we're acting under their authority to detain these guys, and we can turn them over. But there's a lot of times we'll detain a group, and this is a Border Patrol agent calling the Border Patrol station saying, hey, man, this is, Agent so-and-so with Pinal County Sheriff's Office Anti-Smuggling Unit, and we have a group of 20. And they're like, yeah, man, we're just too busy. We can't come get those guys. And what it is they're all tasked out down to some location that's not seeing a lot of smuggling activity so that the smuggling routes are open, or they're legitimately working a group of that have been picked up at the border seeking asylum, and the Casa Grande substation is overrun with people that are seeking asylum.
Well, and two things, Chris. So a lot of these individuals, and my understanding is that some of these individuals are in fact on terror watch lists, and how many of these individuals that get released that that's not even, and I know that may not be a high number, but I've definitely heard of instances where in the past where they have picked up and detained people that were in fact on a watch list. But that point being aside, the other aspect of some of this also is coming out of Afghanistan. I mean, how many of those people, how many of those, and I've of course been to Afghanistan, and I knew a lot of Afghani people, just good people. Mm-hmm. But how many of those individuals that the Biden administration just crammed on planes that they didn't vet, and Absolutely. How many of those are Taliban or ISIS that are now in our country that, again, they did the same thing that they've been doing with some of the illegals on the border, is bust them in and just drop them off in cities, wherever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the scary part, man. And it's not just terror watch list, right? The terror watch list is a critical point that we need to worry about. It's a bad thing we need to worry about. But what about just the groups that Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, all these South American countries don't want, that are violent criminals such as MS-13 or murderers. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many people that we know of that have violent criminal histories that are just let go because not in any fault of Border Patrol. Let me make sure that's clarified, because again, those guys do a thankless job, man. But it's the administration's policies that are just like, hey, man, we're over full, let them go.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I can't fathom that. I just can't. We have, when you are letting, it's like California, right? Like, oh, okay, well, the prisons are overflowing. Let's look at child molesters. We're going to let child molesters go. We're going to let, if you only murdered one dude, you're okay. You can go. You know, 3 or 4 people might have a problem with that. But one guy, we'll let you go. 2, we'll kind of see how you've been in jail for or in prison for the past couple years. So that's the kind of environment that these leftists are breeding. Perfect example. This is an immigration case, but this is a case of Democratic left-wing policy. October 4th of 2021, good friend of mine, Mike Garbo, and another agent are working in interdiction detail down in Tucson, and they get information that there's a guy traveling on an Amtrak train, and he's either carrying narcotics or money, right? And Garbo's unit was assigned as a train trafficking unit. They would do interdiction on trains. So Mike and his partner make contact with the person that they believed was the suspect on the train. They ask him to step off. And as they're doing that, a second male stands up and says, hey, this is my cousin. What are you guys doing? And they're like, well, we just want to have a talk with him. If you're with him, why don't you step off the train with us also? So this gentleman proceeds to put himself in front of Garbo and the other agent. I won't use his name. And they proceed to walk down the train, second deck. And as he goes to get down off the stairs, he turns around, pulls out a 45, and pursues to shoot Mike and kill him.
Damn.
They exchange gunfire with the second agent that's there. Make a long story short, a recently promoted Tucson sergeant is going by, sees this interaction, and former SWAT guy grabs his gun, engages the bad guy, and what they end up doing eventually is shooting and killing this guy. Well, he was on bond from California for first-degree murder, and he was wearing an ankle bracelet, and he cut the ankle bracelet off to help traffic this load of dope to Texas. So this is a direct result. Like, why is a dude out on first-degree murder when he should have been locked up, and he ended up killing a very, very, very close friend of mine? As a matter of fact, I'm wearing his bracelet right now.
Sorry to hear that, buddy.
Yeah, it's, it sucks, man. But when you start realizing these things, and these are repeat offenders that are constantly being discarded by the left, is, happy go lucky, we can rehabilitate. Man, there's some people that you can't rehabilitate, and they don't care, right? It's, hey, let's make things happy for everybody, but let's ruin the country by doing it. So,
jeez, yeah.
Sorry, man, another tangent of mine. I told you this was going to be tangent filled, man.
Well, I mean, the bail reforms and the sentencing reforms has been detrimental. I mean, it's cost thousands of people's lives. I mean, we talked about that the other day. We saw a 30% increase in murder rate since what was this? I should have it to memory. But we know that 30% increase was the highest increase since the 1960s.
Yes.
And again, also that went up was aggravated assault. And so,
Absolutely.
I mean, we kind of don't want to belabor that too much, but Aaron and I talked about this an episode ago. I would say that the bulk of that increase has been the policies we're talking about, plus the vilification of law enforcement. It's the direct result of leftist policies in law enforcement and in the media, the attitude towards law enforcement and reforms. Let's talk about our sponsor, Origin. Pete Roberts was told you could not make jiu-jitsu gis in the U.S. Well, Pete and his team have proven the naysayers wrong by producing the best jiu-jitsu gis on the market. I, for one, love my Path gi. It is lightweight, yet strong and super comfortable with an innovative technical fiber weave that is also IBJJF legal. The Wave logo is legit. It has woven belts that blend between white, blue, purple, brown, and black, hence the name The Path. They also produce jeans, hoodies, handmade leather boots, and Jocko fuel supplements that help us recover from hard workouts, force on force classes, and simply make us feel better and more energized through the day. I just finished a hard workout in my garage gym and rewarded myself with a delicious mint chocolate milk protein shake and coconut milk. Man, it's like dessert. If you're looking for any Origin products, please go to our show notes and click on the affiliate link, or look for the icons in our blog section of our website at evosec.org. It helps us keep this podcast free and keeps the lights on. If you get something out of this show and you feel like helping us out, use EvoSec10 for 10% off at checkout. Now, back to the interview. So Chris, there was something that you were mentioning earlier about the statistics of narcotics, the increase in narcotics over the border, and just an increase in overall trafficking of narcotics since the Biden administration came into office. Can you hit on that?
Yeah, real quick. I'm going to pull up my email because I actually pulled stats for this so I can pull this up. But I believe fentanyl, since President Biden took office, is increased something like 847%. Here, I've got the stats here.
Wow.
Let me pull this up for you guys. All right, so 2021. So let's see. Fentanyl, 2021, from 2019 to 2021, 294% increase. So
wow,
from 20 to 21, ketamine up 856%.
Goodness.
Yeah, so let's see. The importation from 2019 to 2021, ketamine is 1,023% from. So you're seeing from 2020 to 2021, 856% for ketamine, and then between the 2 years, 19 to 21, it's up 1,023%. Fentanyl's up between 20 and 21, 125.33%. Cocaine's up 68%. Let's see here. What else we got? Other synthetic drugs up 38%. Yeah, so I mean, we're seeing this huge increase in just the fact that the border issues are being open, or the free. I shouldn't say open borders because we technically still have a closed border, but since these open border policies are not being allowed or being allowed to kind of go on, we're seeing huge increases in narcotics trafficking. I really wish that I had been able to pull immigration stats, right? Because the problem is we can't enforce immigration law right now because we've lost that ability. And I have no idea what Border Patrol stats would say as far as that goes. But I can guarantee you they're through the roof.
So bottom line, again, the policies of the Biden administration have a direct effect on trafficking of drugs, and again, what ends up being a result of additional murders because of there's always murders tied around drug trafficking of some sort. And then the deaths that happen from overdoses.
Yeah.
All the pain that families deal with even just drug addicts,
Yes.
that are still alive, all a direct relation to the Biden administration's border policies, right?
Absolutely. And the scary thing is, man, wait till carfentanil hits this country. Carfentanil is another synthetic derivative of fentanyl, and it's 1,000 times more potent than fentanyl.
And fentanyl is crazy potent, right? I mean, you just get a scintilla of it on you and you can overdose, right?
Absolutely. You can breathe the dust in. We've had officers, and you can look it up. It's all over online. Officers they'll open a package and they'll just get the particle dust that comes up in their face, and boom, they're down. That's why we're issued Narcan now. Never in my career, 20 years ago when I started, did I think I would have to carry some kind of self-medication in case I became ill or sick from narcotics, right? Like methamphetamine was a big drug out here. PCP was big. PCP is transdermal, right? So if I'm touching a sweaty guy that's high on PCP, I can get some of the effects of it. But shit, man, I mean, I went 20 years with not having to deal with any of that crap. Now, all of a sudden, we've had several of our guys that have been exposed to it. We've had, being in the narcotics business right now is the position I'm in. We go to these conferences and stuff, and we're seeing the effects of this, where officers are dealing with this daily, and it's just, I want to say it was a Santa Cruz County or maybe Yuma County, I can't remember, but there was an agency where it might not have even been in Arizona, so let me correct that. But an officer or deputy's working a case, inhales the particles from it, and he starts having immediate reaction. And thank God, I believe it was his secretary that was able to administer Narcan to him. So think about what's going to happen when we start getting carfentanil in this country. And we've already seen a couple of these absolute cases where we're dealing with carfentanil in the country, and it's nasty stuff. And once that hits, it's going to be 1,000 times worse. The cartels are already somewhat sabotaging loads of fentanyl, and they'll make it so they're hoping that our dogs, our canine units will breathe that stuff in, or even the officers will take that stuff in, either by touch or breath. They don't care about us, right? We're their enemy. So this is all a direct result of lax border enforcement, in which is exponentially up since this administration took office.
Again, the unintended consequences of gaining votes and power, huh?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I mean, I sit and laugh at it. Go ahead, Aaron.
I think I'm gonna correct you. I don't think it's unintended consequences.
I think you're right, Aaron.
Well, guys,
can I make one last statement, Aaron?
Oh, of course.
The three of us are just three guys having a conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't take what I'm saying as gospel, and I say this when I train people, and I'm going to sell this to the people that listen to this podcast, no matter which way they lean. Do research. Follow the border agencies that are fighting the battles we're fighting, and we're not a border county. We're 70 miles into the United States, and we're dealing with these issues. It's exasperated at the border. Texas is suffering. Arizona's suffering. I'm sure New Mexico's suffering. It's just not reported because they're such a left-leaning state. But do research. Follow organizations that actually breathe the truth and show the truth. If you're able to, take a trip to the border. Come to Arizona and link up with some of these agencies that work the border and ask, say, hey man, what's the real story? And any agency here that is worth anything will take you and show you the issues and the atrocities we're dealing with. I know my agency will. I know my sheriff will absolutely do it. Follow my sheriff on Instagram, the American Sheriff, @American Sheriff. The stuff he's showing is occurring not only at the border, but 100 miles into our country, 70 to 100 miles inside of our country. We, domestic law enforcement, are fighting an insurgency right now to keep our country, to keep the United States, not necessarily our country, because the land will always be here, right? But we're fighting an insurgency against an evil administration that is looking forward to the collapse of this country so they can maintain power how they want it, not how the founding fathers, the Constitution, or any other, we'll even say politicians in general, right, want it. It's their basis of what they want, and they're using whatever means they can to crush our country. And do the research yourself. I have my buddy Ed. He's like I said, he's that Secret Service agent that was back east. He now works for Homeland Security. He came out here. I send him pictures, and it's not publicized back 3,000 miles away, or if it is, it's touched on, so they don't see the reality of it. And when he talks to me and sees the things that we're dealing with, it's almost like we're in a whole nother country. So do the research, look and realize that the issues that we are dealing with are coming to the United States, and they're coming to your neighborhood, your parents' neighborhood, your kids' neighborhoods. And the only way to stop it is to change the administration and get back to a conservative way of life where the federal government, by Constitution, is responsible for the security of our borders, right? So if you don't want to listen to Chris Lapre, or you don't want to listen to Aaron and Eric, do the research and find out the real truth of what's going on out there. And I think a lot of Americans, if it was presented to them in an open, honest way, would honestly be shocked at what's occurring in this country. So,
very well said, Chris. And I'll just add one thing to that: is folks need to get behind Article 5 efforts to amend the Constitution, and you know, there's several sources for that out there. Mark Levin's book, the Liberty Amendments. Folks should check that out. But bottom line is we need term limits in Congress. That's the first start.
100%.
And so, yeah, we absolutely need a return to true constitutionalism. So well said, Chris.
Yeah, and Aaron, I didn't mean to veer off there. I just, like I said, it's three of us talking. Take it upon yourself to do the work, look it up, and prove that what the three of us here are saying is truth. So.
No, buddy, what you said was needed, man, and I appreciate you taking us back and clarifying that, the whole concept of trust but verify. So now, just for fun, before we let you go, man, I think the last time we had you on, I think I barely had my first red dot gun together. Yeah. And I think I even had my old Vortex sight on it, which I'm sorry, Vortex. That thing was a hunk of junk. And
they're a great company too.
Yeah.
It's too bad they can't make a good red dot like that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I love their scopes for sure. I've got a couple of them. But, the red dots. I mean, and hey, Kyle DeFore said, he's told him himself that, hey, sorry, guys, your pistol RDSs are not up to snuff. But so I think, we talked to you last time about, what your gear is basically on, on your missions. But as the EDC, Chris Lapre, what do you carry with you? And let's talk about that, and then maybe let's talk about what you're working on, again, as a civilian in your shooting.
So my EDC consists...
Not as a civilian, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when it comes down to it, I'm Chris, the citizen of the United States, and proud to have that title, right? Because not everybody has it.
Amen.
So my everyday carry, I carry a Glock 17. I've always been a fan of big guns, so I carry a full-size gun with me everywhere I go. If I really need to be discreet, my downsize, shall we say, is a Glock 48 with a Holosun, the 507K. But 90% of the time, 95% of the time, you'll find me carrying a Glock 17. And I know this will make your guys' heart rejoice, in a Tenacore holster.
Awesome.
I was going to ask what holster. So
which one?
The Velo.
Yeah.
So I got that. It was sent to me, and it's so I can carry a light on it. I don't care if I carry a light. I don't think a light is needed on a civilian carry gun or a concealed carry gun. I really don't.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So, but they sent it to me, and that's what I've got. So that's what I carry. It's a very comfortable holster. Conceals the gun very well. So I carry that, usually with a full 17 plus 2 mag in my gun. And I do that because I like the way my buddy KJ Taylor says. He goes, I carry guns based off of serving size, right? So if 5 to 6 rounds is the average serving size in a shooting, I've got 3 servings at least I can give, with a couple reserves. So that's primarily the reason I carry that gun. It's mounted with a 508T, and that optic has been absolutely bulletproof. The Glock 17 Gen 5 that I'm carrying is an MOS gun with, God forbid, the original Glock plate, and it's held up.
Dude, that thing's gonna fly off.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
That's what they've been.
That's what
they've been telling me, man. But I'm about 30,000 rounds into that gun, and it's still hanging on. So those are.
I think
got the unobtainium screws.
Dude, you've proven the internet wrong.
Yeah,
the
awesome. Internet is gonna. That's why we're having all these problems, man. The internet crashed because of what I just said. But
exactly, man.
So on top of that, I carry a Surefire Stiletto Pro, absolutely with me 100% of the time, and usually a pocket knife of some type. I carry a Columbia River kind of like small folder just for cutting boxes, cutting stuff, just general use. And then I started carrying a buddy of mine that runs Rogers Rangers turned me onto it. It's another CRTK, and it's the Onashi Oken or whatever. It's basically the Hisasu folder from James Williams. Pretty much just if I ever needed a defensive blade, that's what I would go to, if I could get it out, right? And then I carry a Riker nylon AFAC on my ankle. So, which I carry that because, number one, I believe it's the best AFAC out there. Number two, I had direct design input on it, so I believe in the product. And now the Gen 4, which is I have right here, which is a 4-way stretch material. It is just unbelievably comfortable. So,
well, Chris, you mentioned that the last time you were on, and I'm usually really good about writing notes and following up on it. Can you tell me the exact model again?
Absolutely. Matter of fact, if you guys want, get a hold of the company, or when we're offline, I will send you Mike's direct number and see if I can get you guys a couple to T&E.
Hey, that'd be awesome. We'll absolutely give it a whirl and give a report on the air about it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It started out. I still have the one sitting here in my office. It's probably buried in all my crap somewhere. That Mike sewed for me in the basement of his cellar. So what happened was we were at a class together, and I was still at DEA at the time, and I was like, "Hey, man, when we're doing these street jumps and we're doing these operations, I'm working plain clothes, or I might be doing some undercover stuff. I don't have a way to carry med gear on me, and one of the biggest things I don't have the ability to carry on me is chest seals. Could we do this?" So he and I went back to the bench at Casa Grande Range. You know it, Eric, those old metal picnic tables, and we kind of drew out what we wanted. Oh, yeah. And he's like, "Hey, well, what do you think about a slot in the back that would hold a chest seal?" I go, "Dude, that'd be great." So he went home that night, sews up these 2 AFACs in his basement, and he brought it to me. He's like, "Hey, what do you think?" And I said, "Well, I think the flap should be a little bit longer other than that, man, I love it. And he put it into production, was sewing them himself, and then he got a contract that he couldn't. Basically, we get a contract with a government organization, and they were asking for like 210 of them or something like that. So he outsourced it, and it's taken off from there, man. And I firmly believe this new 4-way stretch material that he has First Bear do for him is just unbelievable. It's durable. You don't even know it's on your ankle. And then on top of that, there's no break-in period. The old ones were 500 Cadora, and guys would be like, man, it's kind of bulky and it takes time to break in. Yeah, I get it, but you can also tow your truck with it if you needed to. So, it's a progression, right? Like anything else, if you stand still, you're going to get left behind. So, Mike's done a phenomenal job of constantly looking at materials to make this thing better. And I firmly believe this 4-way stretch one is absolutely the way to go. So I'll take care of you guys offline with that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, buddy. And again, I think it's so crucial that most people in the firearms community now are switched on about medical, but then again, we can't drive that home enough for audience members, for new listeners that may not be on board with that. So yeah, that's great, man. And I just wanted to say this: carrying a chest seal, man. Those are crucial. They're as crucial as a tourniquet in my mind. I mean, they may
absolutely.
Even go ahead. So if you're not carrying a chest seal in a kit, I just think that's something folks need to do if they're serious about carrying medical gear. They need chest seals.
Yeah, man. And as you guys have pointed out numerous times on your show, and a lot of the people that you guys have on your show point out, you're going to treat medical injuries a lot more than you're going to shoot people, right? So whether it be a family member or somebody on the side of the road that you roll up on an accident, or heck, if you work in a industrial plant, limbs getting chopped up or broken all the time, or daily things, right? So that medical aspect is a must, and I really think that.
And I don't know the statistics, Chris, but tension pneumothorax is definitely so high on the on folks dying from tension pneumothorax as they are amputations. I don't know what the statistics are.
Yeah, I think
but
it was
I know
like
it's very
38% or something. So if I remember right from TCCC, I want to say it's in the 30. Maybe I'm a little off on that, but I thought it was as high as like 30-something%.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll make a note and we'll get those statistics added to the show notes, and we'll clarify that on the air next time.
Yeah,
but it's huge. I mean, tension pneumothorax is a huge killer when it relates to trauma.
Yeah.
So yeah, folks need to carry those chest seals.
So the other, go ahead, Aaron. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, you guys are reminding me, Caleb Kazi, if you're listening, we need to get you on.
Yeah, 100%, man.
Need to get that guy on here and talk some more medical. Need to host him here in Tulsa.
Yeah,
too.
that would. I've heard great things about his stuff, man. I wish he was a little more local. I've been so busy lately. I haven't been able to get a lot of training in as far as the medical. As far as outside medical stuff, as a team, we do a lot of medical stuff. My TAC med guys do a phenomenal job. Border Patrol, their Borstar guys work with us a lot. They treat us very well. So I'm very fortunate that we can hold internal training to a very high level, but it would be nice. It's always nice to get an outside view, right? The other thing that I absolutely carry on me, like I said, is that flashlight. Years ago, I read a study. Oh, I can't remember. I can find it somewhere. They did an interview of 9/11 survivors, and like 98% of the people that survived, they were asked, if you had one piece of equipment again and had to go through that horrible experience, what would you want? And like 98% of them said a flashlight. So
wow, man, that makes sense.
So I started, I would use that as a baseline. I started carrying, I used to carry what is it, the EDC 1 or whatever that Surefire made. And then I think you guys know who Andy Stanford is, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So Andy, I met Andy in a weird way. That's another conversation we'll talk about. But Andy hooked me up with a stiletto, and then when the stiletto Pro came out, he gave me one, and man, I can't say enough good things about that light. It's flat, it fits your pocket, it's easy to carry, it's rechargeable, and just I know there's other flashlight companies out there, but Surefire still leads the way as far as I'm concerned, man. So
They do.
gun, med gear, flashlight are my primary three things that I never leave the house without. And of course, like my wallet and stuff like that. And good eye pro, real big fan of good eye pro, primarily Oakley. You know.
Yeah, you're always wearing you've always got your eye pro on.
Yeah, yeah. So
we've got a good show here, so I think we're gonna need to let you go here, Chris. But that was so I had cataract surgery and I could finally wear sunglasses again. And the first thing I looked for was some Oakleys that could double as sunglasses and as eye pro. So and mine, I was so stoked to find them. Mine have like a Sierra coated O that has 5.56 caliber
right on, man.
Pretty
That's
cool.
badass. That's awesome. So
yeah.
How's before we go, guys? I know you guys are probably short on time compared to me. I'm just sitting around my house, but how's the journey with the red dot going, Aaron?
Oh man, it's going amazing. After I finally got a Holosun 507C, loaded that up, and maybe I've talked about this and you've heard it on a show, but every single time I go shoot a match with it, I'm shooting the match better. I'm loving it. It changed my life for sure, and now, of course, I can't really use irons anymore anyway, so it's got to be dot. But and that's because of my my bionic vision starts at about 4 feet in front of me. But yeah, it's going great. I mean, I am thinking that I definitely want to take Scott Jedlinski's class, and Eric, I think you're about to take his instructor class, right?
Yeah, so it's in October here, right outside of Fort Bragg. So yeah, I'm pretty pumped about that. But you guys are still ahead of me on the dots, though. But I've been working on it. Chris, I got my 507C on my Gym 519, and so yeah, it's been an awesome experience for me too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if I thought Aaron picked up a red dot before you, man, you were still living in like the 18th century. I'm surprised you weren't carrying a revolver.
Exactly. I mean, you saw me, man.
Single action.
I mean, Chris, you and I have been in a couple of classes together. I just typically show up with dated equipment and those damn iron sights, man. I'm just old school.
Hey, man, beware the man with one gun, right? Hey,
true.
I have to complain to you guys a little bit, man. I was looking forward to the Rangemaster instructor class where I thought both of you guys were going to show up, and then I get the roster, and I was a little heartbroken. I thought I was actually going to get to meet Aaron in person, and take a class with you guys, and it didn't happen.
Yeah,
man,
you're breaking my heart, man. Sitting here making me feel really guilty. Was that last summer?
Yeah, it was. Actually, I think it was September.
And Chris, you text me, and it's like, it's striking me in the heart.
Yep.
And Chris, it is hard. What's funny is as we sit here and talk about all the classes, as we've been doing this venture with EvoSec, we get offered classes and I say offered classes, just invited to courses. Obviously in many cases, this business is partly because we're trying to pay for our training.
Right.
Frankly.
I get it.
But at the same time, it is so hard to fit it all in.
Yeah.
And there are just times where we can't make it to certain locations, and I feel horrible I was thinking that as you mentioned that, I was like, man, I remember Chris giving me a heart, and then you brought it up.
Yeah. Hey, man, I got to hold something over your head, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's just so we will get to train sometime soon. This world of or this national community of training people, we all are going to run into each other at some point. But what we need to do is make a point of it, right? Because, of course, Cecil is
Yes.
out there near you, or at least Casa
Yep.
La Grande. And I don't know if you'll host. Have you hosted the master Rangemaster course yet?
So we did the one last, I think it was the advanced course. And I honestly think, talking to Tom, he wasn't going to make it out past Texas anymore. He said pretty much he's furthest west he'll come is Texas, just because of, personally, I think because of age and driving everywhere is just wearing on him. And who knows, man? Maybe we can get somebody else to fill that spot. What's Ahern? God, I just blanked out on his first name.
John Hearn.
John Hearn. There you go.
Yeah.
John Hearn. To host it out here or something, and maybe we can all get out together. Or if you guys do it in Oklahoma.
Okay, so John can run the master.
I don't know,
course?
but I know he's one of Tom's instructors, so maybe that's something. Once Tom decides not to hang it up, maybe John will take it over. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, and another possibility, man, is that maybe he holds it at Carl Wren's place again, and the three of us can meet up there and take the master one, because Eric and I are doing advanced here in June.
Okay.
So
maybe I'll have.
Well, and frankly, I would love to take the master course with you, Chris.
Yeah, man,
that would work out perfect if all three of us could take it together.
It would be outstanding. I think the class content would be great, and the evening content would be just as well, if not better.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
So
sounds good. Well, on that note, let's go ahead and call it an evening. But man, thanks so much, Chris. This has been a blast, as I knew it would. I've been bugging Eric to get you on, I think at least for about a month and a half, and we finally lined out. The stars aligned, and we finally got to do it. So, man, thanks again for showing up, and again, our guests help us out a ton and support us by spending their time talking to us. So, again,
hey, no problem. I'll end it with this, guys. It's always a pleasure. You guys are one of the few podcasts that I still listen to because of, number one, because of you guys, right? You guys are friends. But number two, you bring a different spin. It's not about all this training or this or that. It's actually, you guys bring humanity to the people that you interview. And I thoroughly enjoy it. But you guys, please be safe. And thank you guys very much for having me on. It's always a pleasure. I know, Aaron, that we kind of went off the rails as far as what we talked about yesterday. We had a great conversation yesterday, and today went a different route. But,
no, it's been great. Though, buddy.
You guys take care.
Absolutely.
Have a great night, and thank you again for having me on. I look forward to hopefully you'll have me on again.
Oh yeah, we always have repeat offenders, so no problem, buddy.
Yeah. Aaron, I think you'll appreciate this. Maybe by the next time you guys have me on, I'll have my fifth stripe on my white belt.
Your fifth stripe.
Awesome,
and maybe I'll have my fifth stripe on my blue.
Eternal. I'm going to change my name on my Instagram from Asymmetric Options to Eternal White Belt.
Oh, bro, you're gonna get that. You're gonna get that blue belt soon, man. Yeah, bro. You've been working hard too, man. So, well, God bless, Chris, and thanks a lot, brother. It's been awesome talking with you.
Same here, guys. You guys take care, and hopefully talk soon.
Let's talk about an awesome training opportunity. We are super pumped to be hosting John Murphy of FPF Training for his Street Encounters, Skills, and Tactics class the 5th and 6th of November 2022 just outside Fort Bragg, North Carolina. This class will teach life-saving material to include Stop the Bleed Medical, Pre-Encounter Management, Pre-Assault, Proper Pepper Spray Use and Deployment, Essential Shooting Skills, Scenario-Based Decision Making, Post-Fight, and more. For tickets, go to our show notes and find the class link, or go to John's website, fpftraining.com, and look for the class in his course calendar. Also, listen to John on our podcast, episode 66, to learn more about him and tap into his vast knowledge. Come train with us.